Subjects.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Oh, what a compliment. For that, I thank you.
What is happening now? There are homeless and hungry.
Now it's time for us to stand up for God or we'll fall to nothing.
It's time now for Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Listening to the general public, what the public is saying.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Talk Today. It is our pleasure to be here. My name is Patrick Schmid. I'm here with Mr. Loxley Banks, and we have a very special program in store for you today. In particular, we are talking about Cayman Islands special Christmas presentations. Our program will focus on remembering Christmas in the Cayman Islands over the past 150 to 175 years. You will hear about music, dance, food, cooking, sand yards, travel, shopping, trade, the bull runs, sailing regattas, family and church. The CI Retro Talk Today is being brought to you by Health Service Station, the Ministry of Culture, and Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration. We will be back shortly after the break with our wonderful guests for CI Retro.
The holidays wouldn't be the same without a little boom from Fireworks Limited. Cayman's biggest firework discount megastore is now open behind massive equipment in Industrial Park. Fireworks Limited has a megastore full of new fireworks and offers huge volume discounts. Stock up early and save big with free gifts with every purchase and the biggest variety of products on island. Fireworks Limited is behind massive in Industrial Park with tons of parking. Open until 6 p.m. every day except Sunday and open until 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
Think about something that makes you happy. Did it make you smile? We know it did, because that's what we do at Sagicor. Put smiles on our clients' faces every day. With a large range of products to cover your family, it's no wonder most locals choose Sagicor for their life insurance needs. Serving the community for over 25 years. Let us put a smile on your face. Call your Sagicor advisor today.
Show her that you know her this holiday season with the perfect gift from Pandora Jewelry. Discover a variety of rings, earrings, necklaces, bracelets, and charms. Shop Pandora Jewelry today.
Cayman's only Pandora store is located in Island Plaza under Margaritaville, and collections can also be found at Island Jewelers in Camana Bay.
Winners Circle Sports would like to thank all their valued customers for their continued patronage. Opening hours are from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Just a reminder that Winners Circle will be open this public holiday, Thursday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And on December 23rd and 24th, they will be opened from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., especially for your holiday shopping convenience. The management and staff of Winners Circle would like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year.
Ho, ho, ho from Savannah Pharmacy. Get a head start on your Christmas planning with a 50% sale on select gifts and decorations, including ornaments, Christmas table accessories, and gift certificates are also available for that hard-to-shop person in your life. Ho, ho, ho! Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, 1946-3336.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there in Radio Land, and welcome back to Talk Today. We have a special program today, CI Retro Talk Today. I'm here. My name is Patrick Schmid. I'm standing in for Sterling Dwayne Banks, and I'm co-hosting with Mr. Loxley Banks. We have a number of very important guests with us, who I'm sure will have a lot to share on today's topic about special Christmases in Cayman, including Mrs. Arthlyn Pedley. Welcome, Ms. Pedley. As well as Mr. James Miles, Miss Chloe McClement, and of course Mr. Rupert Ackerman. At some point in the show, we will also invite the participation of our listeners by telephone. Again, my name is Patrick Schmid. Mr. Loxley Banks is here with me.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. Good to have you in here. And we've got some really great guests here on the program today. CI Retro Talk Today, special presentation on Christmas remembrances. And of course, Artlyn Pedley, as you've already called her, 40 years ago, I believe, she wrote a play revolving around Christmas remembrances, Artlyn, and somewhere along the line, you have to resurrect that play, I think.
I think so, yeah. 40 years ago, I had just come home from university. It was December 1979. I'd started teaching at the Cayman Islands High School in the September, and I was teaching English and drama. And at that time, I was very privileged to be working with Jeff Cresswell, who was the head of drama. And Jeff is a legacy in Cayman, very well known for his work with the In Theatre at that time. And on my return home in the summer...
we'll get the rest of the story as we move along.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, then, that's really why I know you have asked me to come, so I'll tell everybody about it later.
You asked the question, sir.
Well, yes.
I wasn't quite sure how much you wanted me to share.
Yeah. And we've got Jamo with us from Youth Services. Jamo, you can tell them just a little bit about yourself. I think most people know, but just,
I hang out with young people so I can look young.
Okay.
Works half the time. I'm getting up in age, but anyhow, my body lets me feel that I'm not young anymore. But I went in the sea today.
Oh, well, that's good.
So I feel a whole lot better right now.
That's a Christmas thing,
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And our young guest there from actually Youth
Key Club.
Your program.
Yes.
She
can introduce herself. She's a Toastmaster trained.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Chloe, and I'm the president of the Clifton Hunter Key Club, and I'm also the co-host on the Youth Flex radio show.
Oh, well, and you're in the Kiwanis Key Club. You're getting some good training, I'm sure. Have you been off to one of the conventions yet? Or?
No, sir. I'm going next year.
Oh, where's it going to be at next year?
The Rose and Shingle Creek Resort in Florida.
That's a beautiful place. I think it was there. Well, they kind of rotate around Orlando, Tampa, and down around Tarpon Springs and some other places. And I believe that's where that may be at, around Tarpon Springs, Florida. But welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And you're going to hear a bit about Cayman Christmases many, many years ago, and we want to kind of compare it to what we know of Christmas today and how that transition has happened, and are we doing it right or are we doing it wrong? Have we lost some things? And of course, we've got Mr. Rupert E. Banks here with us. Rupert Ackerman. I know you were an E-Bank.
Used to be an E-Bank. In them days when they didn't have bail boxes.
And of course, Rupert is a seaman, and he will probably tell us a little bit about somewhere along the line about some of the Christmases that he spent at sea out on the high seas, and he'll be doing a little music for us and all those various things. So we're going to have a good program for you here today. But we want to remind you that CI Retro Talk Today, this presentation is being brought to you by the Ministry of Culture. The Ministry of Culture always trying to make sure that our heritage and our culture are that we know what it is and that it can guide us down the way. And also by Health Service Station, family owned and operated for the past 4 decades and still going strong. And Parsons Air Conditioning. You should call Parsons for all of your air conditioning and refrigeration needs. Okay. I believe, Sue, do we have another commercial break here? Yes, and we're going to get some more commercials in here for you. You got to pay the bills, and then we'll get to the kind of meat of the program here.
This season, Vigoro is stocking something for everyone in our 2 garden centers. Christmas decorations, terrariums, succulents, ceramics, blooms, orchids, bromeliads, garden sculptures and accessories, mobiles and garden furniture, water fountains and wall art, and even fairies for the little ones. Make it a Vigoro Christmas with a gift that will be treasured forever. Vigoro on Agricola will be open on Sunday, December 22nd, 11 to 5. Both garden centers will be open on Christmas Eve till 6 p.m. Merry Christmas from Vigoro.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
Inspiration comes easily when paradise is your backdrop. Shop the original and exclusive Cayman collection at Island Jewelers this Christmas. Cayman map pendants jewelry starting at $299 US. Ocean Fire Opal collection capturing breathtaking color palettes of our stunning waters. The original Cayman link and new stock of treasure coins, including many new additions for 2020. Don't forget that you'll receive 1 entry for every $50 you spend to Pollen's Pick Your Present $50,000 giveaway. Merry Christmas from Island Jewelers.
And we're back. On with the show. Remembering Cayman Islands Christmases. It is so important to us all. So as not to let our culture and heritage be swept up and buried by outside influences. And there are a lot of outside influences coming in on what we have here in Cayman and what Cayman was built upon. So, anyone got it? Any little comment on that, Patrick?
Well, sir, I mean, even in my relatively short experience, and I like to say relatively, Jambo, even though you already gave away sort of our age. But things have changed quite significantly for us in Christmas time here in the Cayman Islands. And I remember, people still backing sand to their yards and putting out conch shells. I mean, it wasn't everyone, but certainly a lot of people. And now I think that is very much a distant memory. It's not something that is regularly practiced.
Martha, 27 seconds.
Oh, I totally agree. And that was the point of Samman's Preamble, which was written 40 years ago this December. And as I was following on from what I said earlier, when I arrived home in the summer, I was invited by the Inn Theatre to work on putting together a Christmas show. And the idea of Samman's Preamble was just that. It was to identify significant, the story basically is we chose to identify significant things from the past that were at that time we felt being lost.
That was 40 years ago?
40 years ago. And so it was a story of an old man who falls asleep and, remembers key things. So I'll explain all about that later.
Cool.
Some of the things that I've seen change over the time is materialism. Even when I was a boy, we didn't really fuss too much about what we getting for Christmas type of stuff. It was just about getting together and food and music and I remember Mr. Duxley.
You remember Mr. Duxley?
Yeah, I mean, because I grew up in Boston Bay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I remember those stuff. I remember going to mariculture with God at the time, Turtle Farm, getting monoblin and all this kind of stuff just for Christmas.
Yeah.
But you hardly hear about those kind of stuff and music, like kitchen bands and stuff. We don't have that anymore.
Okay. You mentioned monoblins. The young folk, you know what monoblins are?
No.
John Teller.
This is your culture test.
She'll get around to it, don't worry.
So, what are you looking forward to this Christmas?
Well, I'm really looking forward to spending time with family and going to church and celebrating really what the real theme of Christmas is, which is celebrating the birth of Christ and all that he's done for us, and thanking him for sparing us, for being able to live to see another year, because I know many people haven't been able to experience this and be as fortunate as we are today.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that aspect that you just capsuled there is prevalent within your age group?
Wow. I can say that in some people it is, that really have the backbone that their parents put them and tell them, oh, you need to go to church and think of this and thank God for everything that he's done for you. But most children in my age group that aren't really forced to go and learn about Jesus and everything he's done for us, I don't really see it that much at school in our day-to-day lives.
Okay, Rupert, you got any comment on that? You've been around for a long time.
This young lady is right on, because what happened today is that we have kids her age. The parents don't go to church. The parents don't talk about Christ in the yard. They don't pray. They don't. I remember as a kid when we went to church every Sunday. We come home, we had to read the Sunday school paper and lay down. You couldn't go playing on a Sunday. And things like that, and it was so peaceful and wonderful. I mean, I wish I could talk for an hour about those things, but it's what makes us who we are today, those of us our age.
Okay, and that old clock keeps moving along. So right now we're going to move to get that first insert that we have that goes back many, many, many years of some folks talking about their Christmas celebrations, what they remember, and this insert that's coming up was one of Radio Cayman's recorded inserts and this goes back about 40, maybe longer than that years, and you'll hear the voice of Doran Miller on there, and actually he was the one that did this interview, and there'll be other voices which we'll try to tell you after you listen to it. So, Sue, if we can have that invoice, that insert.
Can you tell me on a Christmas day long ago just how the day would progress in regards to food and...
Christmas Eve began. Early in the night you had to go to bed. Stockings were all hung over the chairs. We didn't have Christmas trees in those days. We had a habit of hanging up stockings. And then, of course, we were all, at those early days, we were all firm believers in Santa Claus. Presents were bought from, usually the mothers bought the presents early in November and had them hid away. And the presents always consisted of things that the children needed: school books, crayons, pencils, clothes, Christmas hats, special Christmas dresses or whatever. They were all the things you'd find that Santa Claus had brought next morning when you got awake. Well, then you'd have a good time at watching, taking these things out, and the Santa Claus stocking. In those days, if you were lucky, you got an apple, which was very scarce. We seldom knew anything about apples, but those people who went to America and could send home a few apples, they could always have apples, one apple apiece perhaps in the stockings. And then we played around and talked around and visited around all in the day, and then our church service in those days was always at a Prospect Church, where I worship was always at 3 o'clock. And we went to church service, we came back home. We had a big Christmas dinner in the middle of the day, and that was always roast beef and all the things to go with it. Turkeys were unheard of in those days. Nobody bothered about having chicken much. It was always roast beef and pork. If you were lucky, you got some turtle too.
A special Christmas dinner?
Yes, usually.
And what would your family have?
Well, they would have, if my father came home that he brought a ham or anything like that, we would have that.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd have beef and pork and different leg cakes and maybe a pie and heavy cake, all different sorts of things.
Lots of good food, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Now, would it be just your family or would some relatives
Well,
come?
whatever relatives was, they would always come. Like my grandfather and grandmother, anyone like that, right around.
So there would be quite a few people then,
yes.
always.
Whenever it was that.
Yeah. And did you have, among your family, did you have any singing or any sort of entertainment?
Oh, well,
together?
Used to have the same piano here now. We used to play that, someone would come in and play the piano, and they would sing like in the night, Christmas and Eve night and All Year night. You'd come in the same old house, and you'd play the piano and sing, because we had that when we were 9 years old.
You got that piano that right there when you were 9 years old. Where did it come from?
My father bought it in the States.
And he had it shipped down here? And who would play it?
Well, Celeste and myself.
Oh, you both
you were taught piano lessons, you see, and my mother would play. But different people would come in and play the piano, like when we would have the singing. Different Mrs. McLaughlin would come and play the piano, or someone like that, or Miss Flora Robson. Some of them would come and play the piano sometime.
And a lot of the neighbors would come?
Yes, different ones would come and sing, like the Christmas hymns and all that.
So you'd have a little get-together in your house and sing?
Yes, had that.
A sing-along sort of thing?
Sing-along, yeah.
Would refreshments be served at this?
Yes, usually it'd be sour and cake.
Oh, yes, so that sounds like a really good time. But that would just be Christmas and Old Year, or would you have it throughout, like at Easter or some other time?
No, it would be just Christmas time.
Part of your parents' Christmas entertaining. And did you get to go to other houses? Did other people have things like that?
No, I don't remember going anywhere else, because I guess by us having a piano, whenever it was anything like that, they would come there where they could use the piano and play.
So, about the things that used to happen at Christmas time?
Yes.
You said people used to come and march into your yard?
Yes, the boys would always go with the guitar. Some of them would have a guitar and a violin, and march and sing, come around to the houses and sing. And then we had a big almond tree out in our yard, and with a swing under that. I remember seeing some of them sitting in the swing. Well, they would be on the outside, and they would sing and go around from neighbor to neighbor, and sing to different houses.
It's like singing Christmas carols?
Christmas carols.
And this would be all the young boys from Badentown. About what age would you say?
Well, I wouldn't say all young, because some of them would be the older men too, with the young boys.
So it would be the men?
The men usually.
A very important part of the celebration of Christmas was the Christmas concert held in the churches in each district.
Then the church work. Every church we would have to have Christmas concerts, and the children would have to study poems for Christmas and songs, and we would practice that, say, about a month or more. Maybe from November we would start practicing the children for Christmas. I remember the first poem I said for Christmas. I must have been about 4 years old, and it said like this. Mind, we didn't see Turkey in Cayman, but anyhow, this was my poem. Christmas comes but once a year, but when it comes, it brings good cheer. Then comes turkey, cake, and candy. It's well then to have the doctor handy. Because, when we eat so much fresh beef, we would get a colic. Most of the children would get an upset stomach. We call it a colic. And then we had to take laxatives and all of that. So I was thinking about this poem that I had to learn when I was 4 years old. I had never seen a Turk and didn't know what a Turk was like, but
You knew about the upset stomach part.
I know about upset stomach. It's well then to have the doctor handy, so
One lady from Cayman Brack remembers clearly the recitation that she said when she 60 years ago.
One time they had a meeting with 8 girls in that. Oh, and I can say it to you, always at the joyous season, happy praying class hand in hand, and in castle, house and cottage, pleasures ringing throughout the land. Putting all dull cares to flight, youth and age alike unite. Now while May bells are ringing, every gladsome heart is singing, welcome to the bright new year. Let me tell you something. It was 8 in that. In the year 30, and I don't want lower.
You said that in 1930?
Yeah, and I was in the freedom, you understand? And I don't want lower.
You're the only one left of all of those people.
And my left me punish, I tell them.
Yes. So you said that at Christmas time, did you?
Yeah, Christmas time.
That was a Christmas program that you had?
Yeah. We were good. Now, this one is married to Bernard, you know. You see now? Her 3 sisters was in with me.
I see. And you all said that together?
Yeah, it was 8 together. Now, it was another Hebe, but she dead. It was a girl named Ethel. She's dead. But it's only me and one other girl's Phoebe. She's in the States. 2 low about him now. Me and her, she's same age as me, but she's in the States, of course. But I don't know her. No, that was... And let me tell you, everyone else was dressed in white.
Oh, so you all had special clothes to wear.
And we fixed the beads across over night.
What color were the beads?
Pink.
Pink beads. And that was a necklace, or was it sewn to your dress?
It was sewn on the dress.
Oh. So that was very pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah. How long were the skirts?
Skirts around knees.
And you had, did they have long sleeves?
Yeah. Oh. This is a ready-made dress. My son sent me this ready-made dress.
Yes, that's very pretty.
The Christmas dance was another activity that is remembered fondly by our senior citizens.
What you do at Christmas?
Yes, besides the concert.
Well, they used to have the Christmas dance. Sure.
How would that go?
Well, if you feel like you're going to put up a dance, you would get a place somewhere in some house. You would get a place in some big house. The biggest house you could get. Because not all of the homes would be partied up, you know. And them that had the best hall that you could dance and swing as you like.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
Sure. And they used to have it like that. And then they would go back now the next day and everyone know and clean that place, you know.
What would they have for music for those dances?
Oh, they used to have a violin.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And a special violin player. One from Frank Sound by the name of Reed Green. He was a real violin player.
Ray Green?
Boy. And he was always dressed in that white suit with that violin. And he played that too. Oh, yes.
And everybody would come?
Yes, ma'am. Everybody that were able to come would come. Yes, ma'am.
And how old would you have to be before you'd be allowed to go to the dance? Would the children be able to go, or?
Sure, the children, if he want to dance, they'll give him his little reed. You know, if it is 2 or 3 little children like that and they want to dance, because children could dance good in them days too. Then they would go now, they play 1 little tune or 2 little tunes for them and make them dance, and then they carry them back home.
Oh, I see. So the children were included in all of these things?
Yes, so there wasn't children to coming in now and interfering in them things and spoiling it, you know. No. They wasn't there to do it. They wasn't there, the parents would beat them so.
But they still had their chance, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they had their chance. They would give them that much enjoyment, you see. And they have it.
And what would you wear to the dance?
What you wear?
Yes.
Oh, you would have to
get dressed up?
Yeah. And that you would have to do. And that you would have to do.
Made Christmas special to you when you were a child?
Well, as a boy, and you used to have dance pretty much every night. You have it in your home tonight and have it in mine tomorrow night. Either next night, like that, for so the whole Christmas well like that. You would invite me for dinner, and I invite you for dinner next day, and right on like that. First one family, then the next.
And at the dances, what would you have for music?
Well, we used to play violin and drum and scrape a grater.
And would they sing? Would there be any singing at these dances? Just the music?
Yes.
What sort of dances would they do?
Would they do the quadrille or?
Yeah, I remember one time going to Niven Villa House and the people were dead drunk. But that's the best quadrille dance I have ever seen. Was in Niven Villa House north side.
Why was that so good?
Because the most of the people that understand how to dance the quadrille was there.
Oh, the experts.
Yeah.
Well, you've heard what those folks had to say there, the Christmas that they used to celebrate. And I think we picked out some of the names. Arthlin, you want just...
Yeah, I think the first one was Mrs. Ina Watler.
Yes.
The second one was Mrs. Claire Hislop, and she and the next two as well were interviewed by Mrs. Heather McLaughlin, and the third lady was Mrs. Phoebe Spence from East End, and then the fourth one was Hebe Scott Foster from Cayman.
Right. And that's a part of the memory bank
project.
Stock. Yes, yes. And you were very much involved in that memory bank at the inception.
At the inception and even beyond. Very involved in it. Used to go out and interview. Back then, the focus was on capturing with from all the older folk their memories of their childhood. And it was actually from that the book Cayman Yesteryears was produced and published. Yeah, and so it really has been very valuable. We need to probably work on getting a few more themes put into books and so on, but it's great that it's still being used by Radio Cayman and other sources.
If I may interrupt, just to ask Ms. Arthelin as well, that was a National Trust program, wasn't it?
Initially,
yes.
the Trust had the idea for it, but then when the National Archive came along, and that was responsible for really being the place.
Right.
But the Trust was here first.
Right.
A couple of years before the archive came along.
Some of the things that they talked about, apples.
Yeah.
The young folk there, we only got apples at Christmas time.
Chloe, I really remember, and I guess Mr. Loxley and Mr. Rupert as well. That's one of my earliest memories of Christmas, is going into the shops in the four-way stop in West Bay. Yeah. And smelling the smell of apple, because they were in barrels, and the thing was they had a smell, and it was the most distinct and delicious smell in the world.
They were shipped ripe.
Yep.
They were picked and then died.
Yeah,
like
they weren't forced ripened like they are today. They're picked early, and they've got a lot of stuff on them.
You were lucky if you got a half an apple.
That's right.
I guess they were hot items.
Everyone wanted to have one for their child or family, and whatever they could afford.
Chloe, can you remember there was no turkey? You heard the lady say she didn't know what a turkey was.
Even beef was a rarity.
Christmas beef and stuff like that. That was like a Christmas treat.
Right. Go ahead.
And they mentioned the ham portions. Now, you go to the store now and you pick up a ham, whatever you call it. Back in those days, we didn't have the refrigeration. So when she's speaking of ham, I think she said her father had brought home a ham. He brought home a whole, probably about a 15-pound smoked ham. And they'd usually hang it up in the ceiling.
It was dried.
Yeah, well, it was smoked. And you'd cut a
preserved.
You'd cut a little piece off it all the time when you wanted it. But we want to get a little music in here, and Rupert is here with his guitar, and he is going to lead us in. What, Rupert? What are you going to sing for us?
Well, I can sing one verse of one of my favorite Christmas carols, "O Holy Night."
And I think most of us know that. We can join in on the chorus. You let us know.
Yeah, you can join in on the chorus.
I don't think you want me to sing.
No, voices.
I can hum along. Maybe.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared, and the soul knew its worth. The King of Kings in outrageous rejoicing, in sea Lord sea, in heaven fast to take. Down on your knees, oh, hear the angels sing. Oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night divine.
Excellent.
You like that?
Very good.
Very good, Rupert. Very good. And well, you know what? Once you pop in here, we got two minutes here. Tell us a little bit about, because you went to sea for how many years?
Oh, I was out approximately 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, I came out, my first trip I was out 6 years, and I came home and went back and stayed 2 years, and then I went to New York. But
well, did you spend any Christmases at sea, out on the high seas?
oh yeah, we had Christmases at sea. Many times I remember the last ship I was on. We were running from Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania, to the Persian Gulf. It was a tanker, and you'd get to sea, and you had everything. Though I mean, on those ships you had the slop chests, they call it. They could go in and they had people that smoked and stuff like that. You could get cigarettes, you could get liquor, you could do everything. So we had a partner on board usually, but we would come up with ideas on board the ship. We'd play dominoes or whist or something like that, just kill time, and then everybody got drunk and went down and slept.
But it's true to say, isn't it, that most Caymanian men that had families back home made every effort possible to get back?
Or you try to get back, because if you had your time in, if you were married and you had a family, they would try to schedule if you went out, you had to stay a year. That was like one of the contracts with the company. Yes. And if you were there, so that you would even stay over a little longer, so you could get back down just around Christmas. Yeah.
But that was mainly with those folks that were sailing with Southwell and
yeah.
There was a lot of other
national boat carriers.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of other Caymanians who were sailing on American ships who were coastwise.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of them, when they went back to ship out in January, February, March, they picked the voyages that they went on so that they could be home for Christmas.
Yeah. Can I just share a memory from just growing up in West Bay? And the seamen, one of the things I remember was hearing the horns blow of the men coming home, because that's, like we knew which men were at sea there, and it was so much quieter back when we were kids in the 60s. There wasn't as much white noise as there is now. And, we would hear cars coming, and we could almost listen and know which car, which car it was. And I remember hearing those cars blow, and my mom stopping whatever she was doing to listen. And she said, well, I guess that could be Mrs., so-and-so, or it could be somebody else. And then she'd kind of listen, well, I think it's so-and-so, because of the direction the car is going and so on. And that was a big thing. And then later on, you'd see them around, the West Bay area. Little things like that we take for granted. We don't realize how much, and that's kind of what the play was trying to capture, particular moments in our cultural past that are disappearing or have gone. And I think there's a lot of scope for that in terms of, and Rundown does a good job of it, but it's more current. But there is a scope for having some kind of pantomime or ongoing Christmas play or some play that captures those moments and helps to pass it on.
Can I just ask you, when you say blowing of the horns, would that
car
be
horns?
The car horns, not the conch shell.
Okay, conch shell a bit further back.
The conch shell was blown by the fishermen when they were coming in from north. So like when Mr. Sir Garvin or those guys from north, they came in and they would have the fish, in lots. And they would have them hanging from the handlebar with the straw running through the mouth of the fish. And your mother would send you to the gate, say, I want a sixpence worth or a pound and so on.
Okay, well, we're coming up on news time here in just a little bit. But, you're speaking of Christmas and car horns, and I believe it might have been the first car that Stafford Banks brought to Cayman. A Dodge, I remember. Rupert, you might remember, big blue Dodge. Yeah. And it was, I think, one of the first horns that was not beep beep or the modern horn.
Had a pleasant tune.
Yeah. And they called it Christmas.
Oh, they call the car horn Christmas.
Yeah, they call the car horn Christmas. Well, it's news time, so news time.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The Grand Hyatt Grand Cayman is now under construction. The developer has made the announcement on Thursday. Located at Pageant Beach between the Wharf Restaurant and Poinciana Condos on West Bay Road, the Grand Hyatt Grand Cayman will feature 167 residences spanning 10 stories. The ex-boss of Francis Telecom and 2 former executives have been jailed over a moral harassment policy linked to suicides among employees in the 2000s. The company, since renamed Orange, was fined about $83,000. The court examined 39 cases of employees, 19 of whom had taken their own lives and 12 who had attempted to. It's the first time a French court has recognized institutional harassment. Some employees were transferred away from their families or left behind when offices were moved or assigned demeaning jobs. And America is about to take another step towards being able to launch its own people into orbit again, a capability it has not had for nearly 9 years. The Boeing company is going to launch a test capsule to the International Space Station. Known as Starliner, the vehicle will be flying uncrewed on this occasion. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Here is where tradition never dies. This is your Radio Cayman.
Okay, and we're back from the news, and hopefully it was all good news. Didn't get to listen to all of it, but hopefully that Carsley and the folks up there in the newsroom had some good news for us. Now, in that last, we'll pick up on that last insert that we had. Some things that they mentioned, and we mentioned a few of them to begin with, but one of the things was colic. Chloe, you ever heard? Is that part of your vocabulary?
No, sir.
No.
Lucky you.
Artlin, I think you can give her a little description of what colic. Yeah.
Well, I think colic is really when you get a upset stomach, and it's brought on by really what you eat, And sometimes they talk in terms of new babies being colicky because their digestive tracts are not developed properly and so on. And so colicky baby is one who's still growing and working through all of that, or else not, they don't know how to process everything yet.
We used to get I think we call it peanut belly.
Yeah, that's true. Peanut belly.
And that called for paregoric.
Paregoric or red lavender.
And, and some of that narrative, I think, in Jamo listening, he, I think, got an idea for maybe next Christmas, and he's going to probably get Chloe involved. And Jamo, you want to tell us?
Yeah, I was saying, since we were talking about that, the men going to sea and being on ships and stuff, I was saying it's fitting that Chloe's here because she attends Clifton Hunter High School, and all their academies are named after schooners, Lady Slater, Simboco, and Goldfield. Mm-hmm. And it would make it a great event for December, a great December event for them if they could do like a homecoming kind of festival where the boys can get paraded in using car horns and stuff, similar to
reenact.
Yeah, to reenact this kind of men come in, and then they'll come out of these transports playing guitars and drums and stuff, like the reenact or the marches and stuff. I think that would be a cool way to reignite this very I wouldn't say it's cultural, but it's historical and heritage. It's a way of reenacting the heritage.
For the kids, it's to listen to it is one thing, but to actually be a part of, dramatizing it is just a whole new world for everybody.
While I was swimming this morning, I met a visitor from Trinidad, and we were just swimming, talking at Schmid back there, and he like, so what are you doing? Well, I said, we do all kind of stuff for Christmas and thing. He said, on how parang and all kind of thing like that. He said, with all the men go around and playing and thing. And I saying that when I heard about the men marching and playing, I like, that what the people be doing in Trinidad as well. But they be playing parang music. And I didn't really hear a lot of parang music in Cayman, but I guess we had our own kind of kitchen band kaito type of music, and we played that, and but it was the men that did it, and so I think that's something that we should try to take back up. Some of the boys at Clifton Hunter play really well. So wasn't there also a sailing regatta?
Oh yeah, and that's coming up a little bit more later, and that was for a while there. The seamen, and this was Mr. Bertie Ebanks' Seamen's Association in West Bay, used to put on they called it a regatta every Christmas, and it went on for I guess 10-15 years, right out there on the waterfront in Cayman in West Bay, what's now Mary Molly Drive there. And
well, I think that was the difference for the people long ago, because they had to create everything. Nothing was in place, so I think that actually made for them to be very creative people, and they wanted to celebrate. The core was the home, the family, and the church, but they wanted extras, just like we all like. So they had the regatta, they had, the garden parties eventually came along, which were both fundraisers, but then time for people to get together to sell all the local food and so on, to do the maypole dancing and that sort of thing there. The grease pole. And so, that's something I don't think we really appreciate. So much that's what the difference is. I think now everything is there for us to go to attend. And in the past,
you had to create your own
You had to think about it in advance, like Mr.
Participation.
Birdie. And he had to get people involved. And it was just like the concerts at the church. You began, the Sunday school leaders would start picking the poems, the recitations, the songs, what small plays they would do, and the children would get involved, and there would be rehearsals in the middle of the week. And you see, school didn't have a lot.
October, right?
Yeah. So, it was much more participatory, I think. And the other thing that I really remember was the backing of the sand. That was something that up in my neighborhood. They started from October. And on moonlight nights, we would go out in groups, and you would call your neighbors, and we'd all walk together.
And talk.
And
sing.
And as we got older, we got naughtier. I remember different people digging holes and kind of covering it up.
I was wondering if they dug the holes.
And trying to, it was just all fun games. But, to try and make somebody have a little stumble or a fall. I mean, it wasn't so bad that you would break your ankle or anything. But it was just fun in the moonlight.
Well, we would dig special holes for special people.
Well, I didn't have a lot of guys around me. It was mostly girls. So.
But another thing was the hep up.
Yeah, when you have
the hep up, I remember the
basket, to put it on the head, you got to hep them up.
Yeah, I remember going with Miss Stella and my mom and Cousin Nanny and those
And if you were old enough to have a girlfriend now, you were 14, 15 years old.
You had to give her the hep up.
Yeah. And then you would put her, you got a man bicycle, so you put the basket on the bar. Right. And she's walking, you're riding, she got the basket on the bar.
Or pushing the bicycle.
Or pushing the bicycle.
Would be the more gentlemanly
pushing the bicycle.
You mean she couldn't sit sideways on the crossbar?
But I used to do that too, but not with the basket. Right. But we had some great things we used to do. The thing was everybody was friendly, everybody was kind, everybody was loving. It was very seldom, and even if people had a little fight here and there, you didn't hold it a grudge against them for the next 100 years. Next day you talking and you say, boy, last night that just happened, That's how we were. That's how God was good, man.
Okay.
Well, at this point, we're going to remind you here again that CI Retro Talk Today presentation, this special presentation on Cayman Islands Christmases Remembered, is being brought to you by the Ministry of Culture. And they're working hard with that new culture program, new culture policy that's supposed to be coming online to really keep these things afloat for us so that folks like Chloe coming along and after her will be able to cue into these things and maybe take some cues from it and be able to, plot the future, the path that we're traveling more efficiently. Because, as I said, if we don't know where we came from, then we can't really plan a good path forward. So this is why all of these things are important to, have at your fingertips. And of course, Radio Cayman is doing a lot in this area to make sure that these things are preserved, because we've been doing it for a long time, but I think the process of ratcheting up the digitalizing of a lot of these things, because a lot of what you heard on that first segment there, that was recorded on what's called quarter-inch tape, and no matter how well you try to preserve it, it deteriorates. Right. And if you don't get it off before it deteriorates, then it's all lost. Yes. And I'm afraid that a lot of what is still out there is on the real tapes being left to get destroyed, because after a certain while, the oxidization on the inside of that tape, which is, it's just like I'm not sure how you would measure it. It's like a paint, a thin paint, and that oxidizes and it turns to dust, and all of the intelligence that's on that tape is lost. As far as I'm aware of now, all of the Legislative Assembly tapes or audio up through, I would think, maybe the early 70s, and the Legislative Assembly was recorded back before that. But all of them are still sitting, just dusting away. And I think
that's a big project for someone to get onto.
Yeah, well, I think that would be a real good one for
National Archive,
or even for young people who need volunteer hours, community service hours, and they could learn so much in the process.
Yes,
listening from the recordings, they can hear what people grappled with four decades ago, 5 decades ago. I think OC does a good job of recanting some of the things that they grappled with in the 60s through the Nor'Wester magazine. They always do for On the Record. And I think it's a great way for us to see how far we have come as a people.
Cayman Times.
Or how far we have not come.
And trade winds.
And trade winds. Yeah, well,
it'd be lovely to have those voices, though.
Well, this is what I was going to. This is what I was going to say, and
precious.
But hopefully that the new cultural policy will, be broad enough to take in all of this and do it in a I want to say quick manner, because as I say, those tapes they just deteriorate, and not only that, a lot of, especially if you get anything in a narrative process. There was a lot of editing that had to go on, and that had to be done with a razor blade, and those joins were all in there, and they deteriorate. I just, earlier this year, I took on reconstructing one of the audio narratives from the 150th anniversary celebration of parliamentary government in Cayman. 2,400 feet of tape. And there were edits at least every 5 to 7 inches of that tape. Wow. And that's just an example of it's a time-consuming consuming job. And
that would have been 1983,
whoever
1983, there would have been the 150.
Yes.
And whoever does it has to know what they're doing.
Well, that is it.
Any little slip and the original would be destroyed, or you could lose a significant bit of information. Yes. Yeah.
But,
can I just ask a question, Mr. Loxley? Sorry to interrupt you, but just with respect to the backing of the sand, which of course was a crucial part of the whole celebration, and the community, and the fact of everyone contributing. What you mentioned about the moonlight, doing the backing of the sand by moonlight, Ms. Arthurland. And I was just wondering, what did you do about the mosquitoes? You had mosquito pots, or smoke pots rather?
I really don't remember having to carry a smoke pot when we were doing the sand backing, and I think it was because of the time of year. There was always a cool breeze, and not just that, but I've lost my train of thought now.
Well, the climate or the rainy season.
You did it
sort
then.
of abated back
right
during that period. And you didn't have all the mosquitoes. And usually sandbagging, you had to go to the beach. And now, I believe sometime if you went a little further inland with that sand, you probably run into a few mosquitoes.
Right.
But
you also you did it in the moonlight, and it was the whole idea of getting out of your house and having an activity to do together at nighttime, and the light was there, because we didn't have the street lights and things like that, so that's why you went.
Well, many romances had its
origin. We've heard lots of stories about that.
Yes.
We're not going there, Locke.
No. But right now, I wanted to remind you, we're talking about the Minister of Culture being involved in bringing you this program. Also, Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration in West Bay, and they have a wide array of appliances that you can choose from for that big ticket item that you're looking for Christmas, for that special someone. So visit Parsons on West Church Street in West Bay. Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration. And of course, a place in West Bay, Health Service Station, which is it's been there for over 4 decades, and it's still going strong. And it's a great sort of community gathering place for some of the folks, and they're doing a great job of keeping up that community spirit. And I think right now we're going to go to our second insert, and on this insert, you'll hear the voices of Mrs. Vita Marin Bodden, or Miss Vita Bodden Marin. You'll hear Dr. Roy. And when these were recorded, and this is one that Doran, I believe, did himself. Doran himself did. And I think either Mr. Willie Wood or Jerry Bodden is also on the tape. And Martha, maybe you can, I could never just hear those two voices and identify. But when it's played, you can hear it. And I believe, Susan, we want to take a commercial break before we go to that insert? Yes. Okay, and so we got some commercials for you.
Med Pharmacy is your community care partner for health and wellness needs. We offer convenient prescription processing at the counter and online at value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com, with pickup available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop Value Med for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit Value Med, more than just a pharmacy.
The art of living is giving, and Penha Duty Free, MAC, and Victoria's Secret will end 2019 spectacularly with an amazing 12 days of giving. With any purchase between December 11th and 24th, you enter a raffle to win a luxurious gift. Our staff is ready to welcome you in one of our stores and help you to find the best gift at the best price. Visit Penha, number 40 Royal Plaza on Cardinal Avenue in Georgetown. On behalf of the whole Penha Duty Free Group, we wish everybody happy holidays.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning
to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
It's the Christmas season, and TC Paint Shop wants to remind you that we are here to help you secure that makeup for your home. We have Sherwin-Williams paint from $21 per gallon in singles and 5-gallon pails. Interior and exterior. Optimus, Super Paint, Resilience, A100, Promar 200, Promar 400, Ceiling Paint, Duracraft, Pro Classic, Deck Stains, Concrete Stains, Sharecrete for your driveway and pool area, and so much more. Brushes, rollers, hands, and sticks. All priced so that you can dress up your house and still have lots to spend for Christmas. And of course, we have the Emerald Paint. The paint that even our competitors agree there just is no substitute for it. So what are you waiting on? Come on now and get that Christmas makeup for your home. Sherwin-Williams, the L'Oreal of the paint work. Merry Christmas, and come see us at 27 Godfrey Nixon Way, or call us at 345-943-0565.
Starting November 1st to December 31st, you can earn double points every time you use your Fidelity credit or prepaid cards. And with added protection of instant text alerts, 90-day purchase protection, and chip and PIN technology, you can shop with confidence. Fidelity. We're good for you.
It's time for more winners and better prizes this Christmas. With Kirk Freeport's $40,000 sweepstakes, you could win one of 3 $5,000 cash prizes or a daily cash prize of $1,000 just for shopping at your favorite Kirk Freeport store. All purchases of $100 before noon on Christmas Eve qualify for all remaining prize draws. There's even a special Rolex watch prize draw on January 2nd and loads of other great prizes to be won. More winners, better prizes every Christmas with Kirk Freeport's $40,000 sweepstakes. Full details on kirkfreeport.com. Merry Christmas from everyone at Kirk Freeport.
Here is where tradition never dies. This is your radio, Cayman.
Okay, and we're back, and we're going to get to that next insert. As we said, some of the voices you'll hear on this one is Mrs. Vita Bodenmarin, Dr. Roy McTaggart, and some other ones. So, Susan, can we have that?
And did the people in East End have to travel to Georgetown to buy material, or could they, the fabric for making the clothes, or could they get it right in the district?
Yeah, they could. When I grew up, they could get it right in the district.
Travel in those days, what it was like, everything was walking or horseback.
Yeah, walking. You walk where anytime you want to go East End, all the girls get ready, dressed, gone East End. That was nothing. That was like fun along the road. They're about walking, talking, gone.
How did you get to North Side?
We walked there too. Sometimes I had horse. If could get enough horse, would get on the horse and ride now. So I could ride horse, and children always ask, Granny, you can ride horse? Yes, I can ride horse.
I bet you can still do it.
Yeah, I can still do it now.
And of course, in those days, there were no roads, no cars, and so I'm told that people had to ride to Georgetown to do Christmas shopping or go through the North Sound in boats.
Oh, yes, everybody. I won't say everybody, but some people had big boats. My father had a big boat, and usually it was my older sister, Ivor, who is now the librarian, and she was the one who always got the opportunity to go into town to do the little Christmas shopping. My mother didn't do anything like that, so she did the little Christmas shopping.
Yes, that's right. We used to go through the Sound, because we at that time we had no horse, so we had to use boat to go to Georgetown to do your Christmas shopping. Those that had horse could ride it, but we didn't have a horse, so we had to do it by boat.
Who were the people in this district of Northside that had the boats that I understand people used to book passages on them just to be sure they get their Christmas shopping done.
Well, your grandfather, Jack Miller, had a good boat. The McCoys, they had a big boat that they used to use, and the Chisholm down outside, and we used to get our passage sure that with them that we was make sure we was all ready to be there for Christmas.
I guess it was almost like going to another island.
It sure was.
Mrs. Batten, what was Christmas like, say, 40 years ago? You were the youngest member of the island's leading merchants at that time, H.R. Marin and Company. Shedden Road certainly was the hub of activity, especially at Christmas time. Shoppers came from all over the island to converge in that area where, as I said, you had a shopping complex and Dr. Roy across the way.
Right.
Tell me something about that. What was it like?
That was like Broadway in New York at that time. Everybody congregated there. And I remember, too, when even boats, small boats, used to come from West Bay to Georgetown, while others came from, North Side, through the North Sound, and those from East End came by horseback, and bicycles. Actually, the hub was right on Shedden Road, between our old Shedden Road supermarket and what is now known as, I think, Columbus's building.
40 or 50 years ago, as far as the commercial business in the island is concerned, the only stores we had, more or less, was Marin's and mine, of McTaggart, situated there on Shedden Road. And it was a very, very busy week or time. That is, the week before Christmas. And it was the greatest pleasure in the world for the householders, the women, to get out and come around, look the shops over and see what they wanted. And then Christmas Eve, brother, you couldn't tear through the crowds that were in front of those two stores. In other words, that was the main attraction for the whole island, I must say. They came from out of town and they just congregated around Marin's and McTaggart's store. Oh, of course, they were buying goods.
They were in and out of both.
In and out both.
Comparing prices, I guess.
Well, more or less, but sometimes Marin's, I suppose, had more than I did, and sometimes I had what Marin's didn't have. So they, as you said, they had to go from one to the other. But
comparatively speaking, business was good. However, the population was considerably smaller, the mode of life more simple, and there was much less money in circulation. But all the merchants were busy preparing for Christmas, some of us as early as September.
What kind of lines of merchandise did Marin's carry then?
Doreen, I would say basically the same. For example, we always had a full line of groceries, excluding chilled and frozen merchandise, although we brought in potatoes, onions, and cabbage, and merchandise that could stand, say, 2 or 3 days without being in a chiller. But we also handled fabric, shoes, hosiery, hats, patent medicines, hardware, certainly including bicycles and tricycles. We used to say years ago, because we had the sub-agency for Ford Motor Company out of Jamaica, and then we had the agency for the Studebaker Company from the United States, we said we handled from pins to cars.
You also had building supplies as well.
Yes, indeed. We always imported corrugated steel sheets, or commonly known as zinc, from England, and of course galvanized nails and barbed wire, staples, and that type of merchandise.
You name it.
mine was a general store. I had grocers in there, and I had shoes upstairs, and hats upstairs, and dresses upstairs, and downstairs on the east side was where I kept all of my piece goods. You know, in those days we were able to get a lot of cloth from Japan, and we had to order in large quantities. The result that we were able to undersell what you could get from Jamaica.
That's very interesting.
And of course, the people realized that we were getting what they wanted at the price that suited them more or less, so that we were able to cut prices over the Jamaica prices just by ordering it direct from Japan ourselves, Marin and ourselves.
Dr. Roy, for a pound or two, as pounds in those days, what could people buy?
In those days, a pound went, I think, sometimes farther than the pound today, by far, because the prices and goods were so very much cheaper than what they are at the time.
But you could get a pair of shoes, I imagine, for £1.
Oh, yes, quite easily, sometimes less than that. It depends on the quality you wanted. Of course, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I bought my shoes direct from New York. I make sometimes periodic visits up there and buy exactly what I want, and otherwise a salesman would come down and we could make our selection so that we didn't have to buy anything from Jamaica in that respect at all.
Well, I'm sure that some of our younger people could never imagine that ladies' shoes ranged from, say, 5 shillings to 10 shillings per pair. Men's shoes would range from 15 shillings to £1 per pair, while children's shoes were extremely inexpensive, say 2 shillings to 3 shillings a pair.
And even in those days, you imported shoes from as far away as Italy, I believe.
That's right, although they, at that time, most of them came from the United States, but we did have direct importation from Italy. And speaking of prices of merchandise, I could certainly mention fabrics. There were fabrics that we sold from 3 pennies per yard to dress fabrics up to 2 shillings and 3 shillings per yard. Khaki material used chiefly for men and boys was sold from 1 9 to 2 shillings, and blue denim at about 1 6 per yard. I might also mention, speaking about materials, we used to purchase men's suiting from England many years ago, and it was sold well at that time, but of course in this day and age everyone likes to buy ready-made clothing.
But in those days, everyone made their own clothing. Most families made their own clothing, men and women.
Yes, that is correct. The ladies and sometimes we would have the men also, but most of the ladies did the sewing in those days.
Now, the types of food certainly have changed over the years. We have such variety today. What were some of the more famous brands that you carried in those days?
Well, we had quite a lot of grocers and cans as well as raw material like cassava and yams and potatoes, and we had a lot of onions and so forth and so on, you know, just what they would need, and the stores were well stocked more or less, particularly at that time of the year.
Well, I guess most of these provisions would have been grown on the island, brought in from the outer districts to be put in the stores.
Well, you know, North Side was very good at cultivating because they used to bring a lot of cassava and yams and potatoes from North Side to sell in town. Of course, nothing like that more or less is done in Georgetown.
And how late did you stay open, the stores stay open, say on Christmas Eve or during Christmas week in those days?
We had later hours even than we have now. We rarely went home on Christmas Eve until after 12, unless Sunday was following. We always were certain that we were home by Sunday morning, before 1 o'clock or before 12:30. But the hours were later than they now are.
And that meant getting home and being ready for church next morning as well.
That is quite correct. That is true.
Well, at this point, we want to remind our listeners out there that we're going to open the phones up here a little later, and we'll let you know. We'll give you some little advance notice when we're going to open the phones up, and we'll be interested in hearing from you what you think about Christmases remembered years ago and how they compare with what we're doing here today. How are we staying true to our Caymanian heritage, or are we going too far off the track with all these celebrations and whatnot? And we'll just open the phones up and we'll let you know. Now, listening to that narrative, the product line that the Marians carried at that time, from pins to cars. I mean, you know, they had everything was right there on Cardinal Avenue, or Shedden Road. As Dr. Roy mentioned, that was the hub. I recall briefly going up there, I guess it must have been somewhere in time during Christmas, and seeing these crowds, and you know, I think my mother trying to make sure that I didn't wander off somewhere. But that was the hub of all the activities. Now, she mentioned direct trade with Japan. What do you think about that?
Well, I was a little bit surprised to hear when I think it was Dr. Roy that mentioned that they were getting the materials directly from Japan, and actually it spurred a question in my mind to you gentlemen and perhaps Ms. Arthurman as to how that would come to Cayman.
Jamaica.
Okay, so it would still be through Jamaica. It's just a question of not ordering directly from the Jamaican merchants, but rather. I see. Okay.
Because them days we didn't have airplane freight.
Right.
So everything had to be shipped through.
Came by ship. Yeah. And I remember Dr. Marin's shop selling products from England too, like the Clark shoes when we were school kids. We used to get our Clark shoes from Marin's, and that was a big deal to get there in the summer. And my mom always bought us a pair of shoes that was slightly large that we would grow into, and stuffing the toes.
They had to last, of course.
They had to last, but they were the preferred kind of shoe because it was the most durable and whatnot, you know. So they got a lot in from places beyond. I think from England is what I'm saying.
And
as
Italy
well
was mentioned also.
Italy,
yes.
and so on. So yeah, it was
one of the things that I'd like to mention is that back in those days when the men were going to sea, there was no airplane, mail and stuff. Everything had to come by boat. And you go on it for a year. And I remember that every family living in West Bay practically, every family, I would venture to say that they didn't have money to pay for everything when they went to the store. So everybody was given credit.
Yes, that's right.
Until they got the allotment from their father or husbands or whatever it was anyway. That was one of the wonderful things about that community, that they worked together with everybody.
Yeah. I think that's the key thing. We mentioned it at a break earlier. That's what's missing today is the community and the interrelatedness of people.
That's right.
Because people back in the, for me it's the 60s, 50s and 60s is as far back as I can remember. You know, everybody shared what they had and they looked out for the needy people in the community.
That's right.
It wasn't a case of, the churches having to have the soup kitchens and things like that, because everybody knew who it was who needed, and families made it their business to care for and look out for people. On the whole, I'm sure it wasn't a perfect situation, but I think on the whole that people were much more connected. And
it was almost like an obligation, because they felt that close to their neighbors and stuff that you couldn't let them starve. It was one of those things. That's what we did, and God blessed us for that.
And I think too, what I remember noticing amongst people, they never just gave handouts. If it were possible, they would actually get whoever it was to do some work for them.
That's right.
And that was, we talk about that now too. Yeah. And, we all know that that's a good principle. But, it wasn't just a matter of giving for the sake of giving, which is fine too. No. But, there was that element of, if the person needs, but let them come and assist us with painting the house or, give them some work, and then they'll feel that much more, worthy and pride and so on. And I think people also looked out for hiring people and passing on skills and trades a lot more.
I'm interested to see what Chloe might think about having to walk from East End to Georgetown or West Bay to Georgetown, or ride a horse or take a boat.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's actually quite difficult because most mornings I struggle to walk to my bus stop.
But that was the norm,
That was the norm.
Well, with traffic being what it is, you might get there faster in any case.
And as Arthur Lynn said, talking about, when people gave you something, they would find a little work for people, even though they didn't need it done, but just to, and then they could give them a couple of dollars or something like that. I mean, it was just amazing. And I remember my grandfather and my grandmother, and this is something we don't talk about now. I had a cousin, Renton, that suffered greatly from asthma. And when he would have these attacks, I was about 8 years old, and he was about maybe 10. And when he would get one of those attacks, it used to make me cry. But I remember my grandmother would run out in the yard when he got one of those attacks. She'd run out to the yard and get one of those rosemary brooms, and she'd pull off a bunch of those dried leaves off of that broom, kind of scrunch them up, and then she wrapped it in a piece of brown paper and made a cigarette out of it, and she lit it and gave it to him and told him to puff on it And in 5 minutes, asthma gone. And nobody talks about those things.
Well, that's one of the home remedies.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and what the medical background to that is, I don't know, but we know that rosemary is a good herb, you know, a herbal thing. You know, we use it in our seasonings and so on.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something there in the rosemary as well. I mean, that's for the naturopaths.
It was common knowledge. It was common knowledge about the people at that time.
That's how they used what was in the yards around them to treat all their ailments, because they didn't have all the patented medicines and stuff.
One might wonder why it is that things have changed so significantly over the years. And we were also discussing on the break about the how our population has increased so significantly. And whilst I'm sure that we would all agree that we welcome people from all over the world as we need to, and that's the Caymanian friendly way, but that also at the same time we've gone from, in the space of 40 years, from 16,000 people to almost 70,000 people.
Yeah.
And hence the maintenance of community is so much more difficult, but not impossible.
And I think it's commercial time again, so Sue, she's got them all queued up to go.
Your sale, your choice at Vat Motors is back with the best Christmas sale on the rock. You can save, upgrade, or get cash back on new Fords and Toyotas, SUVs and trucks.
It is your sale, your choice at Vamp Motors. Save big on the new Ford Explorer, F-150, Edge, EcoSport, and Focus with up to $6,000 off select vehicles during December. Get huge savings on the Toyota RAV4, Rush, and Fortuner as well. Best of all, you decide if you'll take the full discount, get cash back, or upgrade your new ride. Vamp Motors. Drive home your Christmas wheels today.
Island Jewelers has so many gift ideas from the brands you love the most. Tissot, Movado, Seiko, Philip Stein watches and sleep bracelets. Alex and Annie Christmas designs and Grand Cayman's largest collection of John Hardy. Treat your special someone to the world's most perfectly cut diamond from Hearts on Fire. View exclusive pieces from Ulysse Nardin and Hublot. Visit Island Jewelers in the Island Plaza, Camana Bay, Kimpton Seafire, Ritz-Carlton, and Owen Roberts International Airport.
Homeowners, enjoy the season of giving with Brit K. It's easy.
Purchase any new home buildings policy, and our gift to you will be a $250 gift certificate and a Ring security camera.
Existing home client? Renew early and be entered in our weekly draw for a $100 gas voucher.
Call 949-8699 today. Brit K, where people come first. Part of Colonial Group International. Terms and conditions apply.
The Butcher Shop at Rankin's Farm is ready to stock your kitchen this holiday season with delicious fresh local meats, beef, pork, and goat available now and cut to order. They have you covered on side dishes too with fresh seasonal fruits and vegetables straight from Rankin's Farm. The Butcher Shop at Rankin's Farm is located at 3032 Shamrock Road at Rankin's Jerk Center. Open Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Call ahead with your orders on 949-4083. Make it a happy holiday season with the Butcher Shop at Rankin's Farm.
It's the season to be jolly. Ho, ho, ho! Dollar Superbuy has just received a shipment of new stock, which will make your season jolly. There is something at Dollar Superbuy for the entire family, and all at unbelievable prices. Christmas decor, perfumes, hair accessories, novelties, toys, home decor, unique gift items, and a whole lot more. New stock is arriving every week, so stop in at Dollar Superbuy, where you can stretch your dollar with great quality items at affordable prices. Dollar Superbuy, number 12 Plaza Venecia, North Songway. Open Monday to Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. The management and staff of Dollar Superbuy would like to wish you a Merry Christmas and God's richest blessings for the new year.
Tips to stay safe this holiday season. Take the pledge. Plan a safe ride home. Offer to be a designated driver. Ride the Purple Ribbon bus. Drink responsibly. Log on to ndc.ky for bus routes.
Arrive Alive 345. Take the pledge, designate a driver, or ride the Purple Ribbon Bus on New Year's Eve. This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
I'm April Cummings from Radio Cayman's newsroom. So for my family, Christmas is always a time for us to remember, to share, to laugh, tell stories, and to give thanks. My wish for you this holiday season is that you'll take the time to enjoy your loved ones and really focus on the spirit of love and Thanksgiving. Have a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year from my family to yours.
And we're back, folks. CI Retro, Talk Today, Christmas Remembrances, being brought to you by the Ministry of Culture and by Health Service Station and by Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration. And on this next insert that we're going to play for you, it's about 13 minutes long, you'll hear the voices of Mrs. Annie Huldaboden. You'll hear Mr. Ernest Panton, and I think Mr. Harrington Green is also on there. And I think either Mr. Willie Wood or Jerry Bodden, one or two of them. But we remind you here that a lot of what these folks are talking about, they're talking about their memory from maybe 50, 60 years before that, which really, from the point of where we're at now, covers 100, 150 years back. So that's what we're hearing today, some folks talking about these kind of Christmas remembrances about the Cayman Islands Christmas celebration. So, Susan, if we can get to that insert.
It was very joyful, and everybody looked forward to Christmas because it meant everything, a new beginning, and dresses and everything. All the older men, the grown men, they began to march from around, say, 10 o'clock Christmas Eve, and they marched until maybe midday on Christmas Day, and then I suppose they had some drinks, but nothing drunk. Nobody was drunk. Everybody was just happy. And the first time I recall, the men marched on horses, followed by music, which was accordion, greater and drum, and they had a glorious time with crowds of people following them.
Yes, the men of the island, sometimes for as long as about 3 weeks to a month before Christmas, they would get together round about just after sundown, and they would start a march throughout Georgetown. They would have their fiddle and their drum and sometimes an accordion and a greater, and they would go along marching and shouting hip, 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 hooray every now and again. And of course there were only 1 or 2 motor cars about the road in those days, so they had all the room that they wanted to march. And then on Christmas morning they would go around to each one of the houses. There would be dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And I always remember waiting for them to come because it got me awake, and I used to like to hear their music, and I used to like to hear them say, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray.
You mentioned getting a little drum. I think, in talking a little while earlier, you said that one thing the children in Georgetown did was to have their own march.
This took place on the Christmas Day in the afternoon. A number of us, so maybe 25, 30, sometimes as many as about 40 of us, would get together, and we would march through Georgetown. If we had balloons, we would have a few of them in the air. If there were any flags, we would be waving them that Santa brought. If there were any drums, they would be making as much noise as possible. Any rattles, anything that could make noise, beating pans and so on. And I remember that we used to go up to the commissioner's residence, the old government house, which was burned down a few years ago, and we gathered together near to the porch, and he used to come out and he used to throw down pennies for us. And there were many buckheads, as we used to call them, as we were trying to pick them up. We ran into one another and fell down and turned over one another, but it was great fun. And sometimes I would manage to get as many as 3, and I felt very rich.
I would imagine so in those days.
Well, I remember 40, 50 years ago when my old Uncle Nicodemus and them used to begin to get ready for Christmas. We all make ready our drums and violins and go march in the nighttime and have a lot of fun with each other.
What kind of marching was this? This was carol singing or just music through the roads or what?
Well, we go marching to the road with the music from Old Man Bay right down to the north side to everybody home, you know, looking around and having a good time and singing Christmas carols to each other.
And just about everybody in the community joined in this, I guess.
Yeah, just about everybody in the community joined in these social affairs.
Speaking of this, I'm going to get immediately to what some people have described as the kitchen dances that used to be held. Would you tell me about those?
Well, we used to have a lot of kitchen dances, too. I remember that clearly. And Christmas Day, we would always go to church in the beginning. After church, then we would move down to the big north side, Albert Ebank's place, where we used to have our Christmas dance, starting from 1 o'clock in the day till next morning, having all kind of fun, cakes and drinks and eats, and everything goes with it.
What kind of music did you use in those days? What did you have? I mean, today we have all kinds of bands and groups and combos and you name it. What did you have to use?
Well, we just had a drum, violin, and a pair of old grater. That's all we used in them days.
Okay, Mr. Green, let's have a sample of the music you did in those days. Let's listen to it.
Sometimes it was in the kitchen and dining room, you know, and sometimes it was in the living room, you know. In those days, people had half the house was the living room.
Right.
And those dances would start from 12 o'clock in the day and 2 o'clock in the day and all that, you know, Christmas time. But I mean, all like me, when we went, we had to go all afternoon. We were allowed to go with one of the brothers, and then
back home at a certain time.
we had to be back by 9 o'clock. And that was our fun for Christmas.
We always had dances that lasted all day. I remember a neighbor of ours, Mr. Johnny Eden Rivers, the father of Mrs. Anne Sapanton. Every Christmas Day, he had his dance beginning at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it lasted maybe till next day. And everybody was happy together. No drinking those days, just everybody eating and dance all day. It was most joyful.
I had an old uncle, McGuffin. He was a real old dancer and had one big old house. And he used to make all kind of dances from after the church let out know that they had danced until the morning. But no limit, you can dance till morning. But wasn't nothing much to drink now. Yeah, they used to have a little, but nobody got high to saying bad words or anything, but they danced until the broad morning.
And the girls stayed there with them.
Yeah, the girls stayed right there till morning. Some put on you shouldn't dance all night till the morning.
That's a good one. That's a lot of dancing.
Yeah, that's a lot of dancing. That's what they used to do. They had low dance. All kind of nice dance.
Was nothing but fiddle and drums. Of course, anybody knows that a violin is the sweetest music still in the world, I believe. And that was accompanied by a drum, and a good drummer, and a greater scrape to keep up the time. And those days they could really dance the real dances. Take the 8-hand polka, the waltz, and what have you. These days they don't even hardly touch their partners. They just get off, then shake up and down a little bit, and that's it.
Everybody knew everybody in those days, and they were all so sociable, you know, and having a good time. And it was a pleasant, a delight, rather, just to watch them, you know, congregating and laughing and talking and hooray and so on, you know. They really spent a Christmas evening, particularly.
And there was a lot of activities around the church.
Yes, that's quite true. You never forgot our church.
That leads me to my next question, and that is that families were very close-knit in those days.
Yes, fathers were usually away at sea,
And every December, we come what may, they weren't sure to be home for Christmas. And all the family went to church on Christmas Day. They were all dressed in their best things on Christmas Day. And we spent the entire day having real fun with the family. When church was over, we sat and talked together, and we ate together, and we loved each other, and we visited all our friends and families, and we were all like a great big family.
Christmas really meant eating, drinking, laughing, visiting, and going to church. Now that was a must. You didn't have Christmas unless you went to church. You see, today there are so many diversions. There's this and that and the other thing to take up attention. But in those days, you just had to make Christmas by getting together, and the families visited one another. Christmas time was a time for visiting. People who hadn't seen one another for a long time would remember, well, on Christmas Day I must go and see that person, or see cousin, or auntie, or uncle.
Well, it was a very happy time for myself and I would say the others of my family, and indeed for most of the young boys and girls in Cayman. We used to look forward for Christmas and count the days from about the 1st of July, to tell you the truth. And it seems so far away. And I do remember, too, before I finish, that we always look forward to go with our parents on Christmas Day to church. That was something that we looked forward to, and then after that, there was a special meal that was prepared for Christmas Day with the whole family together. It was a lovely thing.
Yes. I think that was about the paramount thought of everyone. In those days, early days, my father was a Presbyterian, while my mother worshipped with what was then known as the Holiness Church, and now later known as the Church of God. Some of the children would accompany my father to the Presbyterian church, while some of us would go to the Holiness Church with Mom. But by and large, the buildings were usually as crowded, I think, as they could be, taking into consideration our small population. The churches were very definitely, the place to go at Christmas time.
Oh yes, we always had a sacred concert. We had the Sunday school children and the church people had parts. Well, when I was young, your Aunt Miss Alice,
yes,
and Uncle Claudia,
yes,
they were the two who always got the concerts together when I was a girl. And
they were rehearsing for weeks?
Oh yes, and we knew our parts perfectly too. And we were happy, we were glad to go to practice and do that. We looked forward to that when Christmas was coming. And then, well, of course, in those days, I wasn't big enough then to having a part in secular concerts. Mm-hmm. But they had secular concerts. But when I got bigger then, a big teenager then, we all had parts in secular concerts. And it was something we looked forward to.
And people looked forward to it for years. And more than that, we enjoyed going to church and commemorating our Lord's birthday. And we had good, wonderful programs, pantomimes, dialogues, recitations, and Christmas songs. And our young people were so much more willing to perform in those days. It was at that time that our men who went to sea would try to come home, and there was a real family reunion. They'd bring back some candies and things that they knew the family would enjoy, where nowadays that isn't the case.
One final question. Do you think that today a lot of the Christ has gone out at Christmas, so to speak? Do you think a lot of that is missing today?
Yes, a lot of it is missing. I know right in my district, every married man that had a family find himself in church. On Christmas Day and every Sunday, a married man sits in church with his family. Setting example for the children what don't happen in these days.
And you think that's part of what's gone wrong today?
That is what's going wrong with the children, for the lack of parents not training the children. They don't show them the house of God.
Well, there was a lot of meat, as we say, in that segment, and we're going to come back after the news, which is coming up in just about 2 minutes, I suppose, and talk a bit about some of the aspects that they mentioned in there. They mentioned of course, a whole new aspect of marching. You know, they talked about marching on horses, and there was another one, the music part, accordion, which used to play quite a role in music back in those days, mainly because it was portable. And then I heard somewhere in there one of the ladies say the bad words. Troy, you know what a bad word is? You do?
That's something that's persisted.
Yeah. And also, I think somebody in it mentioned dance postures that back in those days.
Yeah.
And
people hugged up in the dance.
Yes. And then they mentioned about changing of the shoes. They danced so much that they had to change their shoes during those periods.
Heel broke.
Yep. So there's quite a bit. And of course, one of the main things I think that came up there was the spiritual aspect of the whole Christmas celebrations. And I think we want to talk a bit about that when we come back from the news break, about are we missing a great part of that, or are we trying to maintain that? Because I think that's one of the most important aspects of celebrating Christmas is keeping that spiritual aspect alive in it. And Susan, if the news is ready, I guess we can go to the news.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news. Access to information.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Officials with Her Majesty's Cayman Islands Prison Service has confirmed the passing of an inmate last Wednesday evening at the Northwood Prison compound. The prisoner, Derny Ebanks, was found laying unresponsive on his bed by 2 prison officers. The officers applied life-saving measures prior to the arrival of emergency medical technicians. Several minutes later, an ambulance transported the inmate to the Cayman Islands Hospital, where he was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Per established protocol, where there is a death in custody, the RCIPS has confirmed that an inquiry is ongoing, but at this time, no foul play is suspected. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. MPs have backed Prime Minister Boris Johnson's plan for the UK to leave the EU on January 31st. They voted 358 to 234, a majority of 124 in favour of the EU Withdrawal Agreement Bill, which now goes on to further scrutiny in Parliament. The bill would also ban an extension of the transition period, during which the UK is out of the EU but follows many of its rules past 2020. And a U.S. judge has handed down a sentence of at least 15 years to a man who stole an LGBT pride flag from a church and burned it outside a strip club. 30-year-old Adolfo Martinez admitted to the media that he took the flag from Ames United Church of Christ due to his animosity towards homosexuals. He was found guilty last month of hate crime harassment, reckless use of fire, and being a habitual offender. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Ho, ho, ho from Savannah Pharmacy. Get a head start on your Christmas planning with a 50% sale on select gifts and decorations, including ornaments, Christmas table accessories, and gift certificates are also available for that hard-to-shop person in your life. Ho, ho, ho! Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, 946-3336.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium.
For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
There is no gift more precious than the one that lasts forever. Shop Island Jewelers' collection of diamonds, sapphires, emeralds, and other exotic gems and prepare yourself for the brightest smile on Christmas morning. Island Jewelers has the largest selection of diamonds on island, including solitaire earrings, tennis bracelets, and engagement rings. Also, receive one entry for every $50 you spend to the Paul and Pick Your Present $50,000 giveaway. Follow Island Jewelers on social media for great gift ideas.
More and more experiential gifts are becoming the norm. This year, make gift-giving a unique experience with tickets for the 2020 Cayman Arts Festival from February 13th to 22nd, featuring a world-class lineup including Christine and Margarita Balanas, the Rodney Marsalis Philadelphia Big Brass, and the Lana Janjanin Trio. Early bird tickets priced at only $110 for season tickets. Tickets are available at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries at caymanartsfestival.com.
Here is where tradition never dies. This is your radio, Cayman.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Radio Cayman's Talk today. We are having a special edition of CI Retro Talk today, remembering Christmas past, and this is brought to you amongst others by the Ministry of Culture. We would like to also remind you that we will open the phone line shortly, and you'll have an opportunity to call in and give us some of your impressions of Christmas past by either dialing directly on 949-8037 or using the toll-free number 1-800-534-8255. Or, indeed, you can send us a WhatsApp on 925-3261. So, without further ado, Mr. Loxley?
Yeah, and I think at this point, we want to thank the Minister of Culture for pitching in here and, participating in these kind of programs, because it's very important that we keep that culture, that history, and that heritage alive, and that's what they're all about. Also, some of the other sponsors, Cal Service Station, who over the years have been very supportive of these type of programming. And also Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration on West Church Street in West Bay. And we said that when we returned, we would be talking or looking at some of the aspects of what was in that last insert. And we talked about marching and of people marching on horses. And one aspect was that Mr. Onis mentioned the children had a special march. Chloe, you understand when they say marching, what they meant?
Like soldiers marching?
No, you see, that's a prime. That's a prime example of
parading
of this kind of programming. When they speak of marching, it meant Christmas time. A lot of the community people, mostly men, and then there were some women that would usually join in, and some ladies, they would go around from house to house to house to house, singing Christmas carols.
I think another word for it was sometimes serenading.
So
they would they were musicians, and that was part of how they celebrated Christmas. Yeah. They found the joy in sharing music, their musical talent, and just being together, going from house to house like that.
And you heard them say they would start marching early on Christmas Eve, and they would march. Usually they'd march until church time, and then they'd go right into church.
Right.
And Mr. Onis, I think, mentioned in one of these narratives that he was really enthralled about when the men would come by, because they would do these, I guess, salutes, hip hip hooray, to
Yeah.
I'm not sure who the hip parade.
I think they were saying hip hip hooray to the people in the houses and so on, and saying,
yes.
hey, we made it through another year. Let's celebrate. I guess that's just a term.
I think in generally the religious people, they had their marching thing, but it was basically for singing hymns and Christmas carols.
Caroling. But I kind of think that marching predated caroling.
Yes.
I don't think that the church people caroled.
But you got to remember though that some
I don't know if that's correct.
Some of these marchers they wound the religious aspect in there.
Yeah.
I think Cayman, who played the mouth organ, harmonica, and remember Dolly played what we call the Popostok flute.
Yeah.
Popostok, what a...
I know what it is. I never thought they would make a flute.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all creative with that.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very creative.
And they would wind in a few little...
Christmas carols.
Yeah, Christmas carol, religious gems, and even Mr. Joshua Hydes.
I remember Mr. Joshua stopping at our house from time to time.
I think everybody had some instrument that you could beat a pan, or you could play maracas, or you could do something musically.
And the harmonica too, the mouth organ was popular.
Well, that was Heyman's,
for us, it was Mr. Reggie.
Yeah. There you go. Yes.
So what you're saying is Caymanians are generally just rhythmic.
Yeah.
And I think it was a time. It was just something. It provided them an opportunity.
Yeah.
It sort of became
sharing.
A tradition to share their music and so on, and they enjoyed it.
And everybody, when the people that were back then days, if you had somebody had a bottle of rum now, good night, ma'am. I mean, everybody wanted to come because you could get a drink. You see, because most of them guys couldn't afford to go buy liquor, but if somebody had, and then everybody would share it, and you didn't pour it out. You had to put it to your head and take a little sip now, and they'll tell you don't take too much.
I think that was a part of it, because usually, whatever home you stopped at, usually they had some kind of liquid for you to drink. And depending on what home it was, and someone would have some spirits, some strong spirits, and someone would have just how the swanky,
or limeade, or civil orange drink and things like that.
So it was a time of sharing, and the marching aspect was very big, and they used to march also actually through New Year's. It went.
Oh yeah.
I've heard that.
Yes, after the watch night services, then you'd go marching, and especially when a lot of the seafarers came home, because that was a big thing for them. And
you guys had fireworks back then?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes,
fire rockets.
Yeah.
I never heard it mentioned at all, but like for us now.
Yeah,
you go watch night service, you got to drive through smoke on the way home.
Yes. Well, no, we had them, but they were not plentiful. If we got 2 fire rockets to Christmas, that was good, and sparklers. But some of the seamen that came home, actually some of them brought boxes of firecrackers. They'd buy them in Tampa and bring home. One gentleman that was famous for fire rockets was Earl Hydes. Sometimes he'd bring half a box right down where the 4-way station's at, and put it out there and light them all, and there'd be
fire rockets.
Yeah. But I think when you talk to the older people about what they got for gifts, it was quite often a little packet of fire rockets, or a little bag of sparklers and firecrackers, they call them, the little balls. And you would, fling them on the ground in a certain way, and then they would just explode. And that was one of the earliest. And speaking about the 4-way stop, in the 1960s, when I remember the Hub Theatre being out there,
Mr. Butter Theatre.
And I remember buying tickets to go see a movie on the balcony. And our big delight on Christmas Eve night was to watch the fireworks being put off. And before the show started, we'd go up early and we'd watch, and they would light them, and you'd see the Roman candles going up and so on. It was earliest thing of with my familiarity with fireworks began.
Well, you know, we had what we call the fire rackets, but we had the cannon rackets.
Which big red ones.
Which was bigger, yeah.
Those are dangerous.
They were baby dynamites.
And thinking of decorations, I don't know if it's okay for me to speak about it, but I was trying to remember, Chloe, this is for all the younger generation. You know, we didn't have Christmas trees. The earliest Christmas tree I remember having was one we got off the beach called a juniper. Now it's kind of, I don't know, Loxley, what the real name is.
It's a juniper, that's that.
Yeah, and sometimes we called it a juniper tree. We'd go get that and just put it in a galvanized bucket with sand. And then occasionally we just get a limb of the casuarina pine tree.
If you could find a casuarina.
If you could, but I remember when my dad got his car, we eventually progressed to the stage where we could drive to South Sound, and there was nothing but casuarina trees there, and we would get a small one, a real tree, and bring that back. But we only had very limited decorations, balloons. We made our own
you hang up a sock
garlands,
inside the house.
but we made our garlands out of folding crepe paper, red and green, and then we would string those.
What about Christmas flowers?
And I don't know what the Christmas flower is that I've heard people mention, but I know that we used to get little paper bells, and there were different sizes. There were big
opened
ones,
up,
and medium-sized ones and small ones. They were red, white, and green. And the big ones you decorated around your house, and then the small ones were small enough to go on the tree. It was an early version of an ornament, but it was paper. And you know, and another thing I want to mention, because I don't think most people know, but I remember Mummy making us save our juice of fruit wrappers.
Oh, the foil wrap?
The foil wrappers. And what do you think she made? We helped make local decorations out of that. We'd get the casuarina pine berry, and we would wrap it up in that. And someone else told me that the men were encouraged to save their Camel cigarette, whatever is that, silver or gold.
Yes.
And then the women would wash those off, and the sweetness as well off of the juicy fruit or the chewing gum. And that's all we had. And we had a little thread, but you know, that's what and balloons, and it was simple. Innovative though. You talk about making use of what you had.
And you know, another aspect of entertainment was the grease pole, and you know, at the garden parties, and they, I've heard on advertising that there's going to be a garden party. I think it's the Webster Memorial Church.
They always do a good one.
Yes.
We do garden parties every year.
Yes, and it's going to be
when your garden party is?
It's January 1st at the Nurse Josie Center.
Yes, it's at a different location this year, and so I suppose you'll have a grease pole there, maybe.
A grease pole.
A greasy pole.
That's right. Climb up a pole.
Big pole, and you got.
I remember.
I believe we now have a caller on the line who has something to add to the conversation. Miss Susan.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Okay. I'd just like to say, when it comes to Christmas, I think parents should be letting their children know that it's them that buys them their Christmas gifts and works hard to buy them their Christmas gifts, and not Santa Claus. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
I think that's an aspect that's under a lot of discussion.
It is.
You know, and,
it is. It's a truthfulness aspect.
Yes. And
but Santa Claus is very much part of our tradition.
Yes. Yes.
Put a little tiny children.
It's wound in there, and
they don't understand.
You know, another aspect that was mentioned in the last narrative that we had was the dancing shoes. They dance their shoes off.
Literally.
and they just change their shoes and.
No, but those times they used to have platform shoes as well, or big high heels and stuff like that.
Oh yes.
So they easy pop off.
Yes.
I remember when we have these dances sometime, and then people would be dancing, and the heel on the high heel would pop off.
Well, one of the things that I noted from some of the narratives that we've listened to, all of which were extremely interesting, was the amount of talk about food, of course, and how important food was to the whole celebration, as well as the spiritual aspect of things.
Right.
And in particular, the preparation of the heavy cakes made of all sorts of things, yam, cassava, of course, you name it, they used.
Sweet potato.
Absolutely.
Pumpkin.
And
even biscuit.
And that's one tradition that has been, to some extent, passed on, not as much as perhaps we would like to know that it's passed on, but it has been maintained. And so we still can get our heavy cake at Christmas, especially if you go to East End. Yeah. But then also it was interesting to note that when the Dr. Roy and Mrs. Marin were speaking in that interview, that they mentioned the fact that the food provisions were mainly obtained locally, which is now no longer the case, of course.
Yeah.
So that was quite an interesting change to what we now have to deal with.
Well, families would actually plant a ground at certain time in the year so that they could harvest it
at Christmas.
Come Christmas time.
And same thing, with the beef and stuff. They had them. They was bring them, get them fat up for the Christmas. And I remember when we used to kill these cattle or these cows, and they would have a big tree, usually, some fruit trees. They did all the thing underneath there, and then they would cut them up the night before, so that the blood, everything drained out. And then the next morning they would cut them up, and people would come, and when you went to get a lot of meat, you always told them to make sure you put some fat in there. That remember it was telling you about how that preserved the meat for
for long periods of time.
Yeah.
You mentioned cows and so forth, and one of the really exciting times in West Bay that it was. I think it only really happened in West Bay, was when they would bring up the cattle from Swan Island.
Yeah.
And that was usually maybe 4 or 5 days before Christmas, or 10 days before Christmas. And they would bring up cattle from Swan Island to butcher during Christmas time. And these cattle that were raised down there, when the calf was born, they just turned it loose out in the wild. It ran the whole island, and when they were ready to, I think they only put rope on them, as the old folks said, about twice. They caught them one time especially the bull calves, to castrate them, and then when they was going to bring them up, and they were wild.
Yeah.
And to get them off of the schooners, they had to push them overboard.
And they swim ashore.
And well, they would put their head up right on the stern of the cat boat just to keep it out of the water. And when they hit the beach, it took 2 or 3 men to control them. Yeah. And we called it the bull runs, because they would come at you.
I wondered what that was, the bull run.
Yes, that.
I know this is the first time
I remember
hearing
one
that.
time.
Right there on Henning Beach in West Bay. Oh Lord!
Remember,
Father.
Remember Van Dyke Bush. He was one of they didn't have. They killed the cow by chopping its head. They would put him, and then I remember one time, this was so funny. They brought this big steer from Swan Island, and they was up, and the market was up, where it is by Mr. Prentice shop.
By Mr. Prentice shop.
Yeah.
Opposite.
And Dikey, I would call him Dikey. He gets up on top. This was one of the big old stairs. Brahma bulls or stairs. And he got up on this. It was so big that he had to stand, because he wasn't a big guy. He had to stand up on the kind of box so he could get a good. Shot at the head. This axe was sharp, and man, like it turned her loose, and that axe stuck in the neck, and that bull shook his head, broke the rope, and headed down Church Street. And when they finally caught him, he was down by where the police station is.
Oh my!
He died. I mean,
exhaustion.
Yeah. But they had to pick him up and
get him all the way back. That was no easy task.
No. But these are some of the things that.
Oh man!
they were not all easy times.
No,
I mean, you know, it
not
was
at all.
our forefathers, you know, went through a lot to bring this country to where we're at today, and I think some of what they, I'm sure, would have liked to pass on to us, we're letting slip away. And I think that's something that we have to be very, very careful about. And I think most important is that spiritual aspect that is wound around in Christmas, you know.
Absolutely.
And of course, everybody here on the island certainly will have an opportunity to participate in some of the spiritual celebrations that will be going on. And we urge you all to, because we all have to be very thankful and know that we're blessed.
Well, Mr. Lox, I would agree with you. The spiritual aspect and also the community aspect, because we really have become quite disjointed as a community, and it's very unfortunate because you know, that feeling of community really strengthened us as a community and enabled us to do things for one another and make the season even more special. But the whole year long, the relationships were that much stronger because of that community spirit. So I think that even though we might have a greater number and variety of spirituality influences, shall we say, the fact remains that there's nothing to prohibit people from interacting with each other the way that we used to, if we make the effort to do so.
I think that's the key. It's making the time.
Yes.
Because I think we have so many other alternatives.
Yes.
And I think unless we choose, and it's all about choices, to make God, the church, and relationships the focus, then we will just get drawn away into everything else.
Other things come in
play. And that's the key.
You know, one of the things I wanted to mention, to talk about those when they would butcher the cows and stuff like that. I remember that there were certain poor people that they would get all the intestines. You remember that? And they would clean those intestines. Cow gut, we call it.
Yeah, tripe.
Tripe. And
delicious.
And they would clean them. And I remember down this, Miss Emmeline, them used to come down by her house down there in Shore there. And they would bring all them and clean them up there and then wash them off, you know. And then they would hang them up to dry. And then, you remember?
They would be out in the sun.
Yeah.
Now it's a delicacy. You go to the store and you have to pay a lot for it. But we ate it.
Just like most people, I mean, no part of the cow was wasted.
No,
everything was used.
Yeah.
I remember that. And the turtle too.
Oh yes. Yes.
You know, and the thing
remember seeing those eggs hanging
thing
dry.
Yeah, that's right. The thing about turtle is, a lot of people don't realize that, but you know, they're loaded with all the
amino acids.
Yeah,
they very, very
omegas.
Omega fat. Yeah.
But just drawing us back to the question of community once again, and I don't mean to drag that one out too much, but
it's important.
It's extremely important. I think that it could really change some of the direction in which we're going. And Mr. Loxley was speaking earlier about understanding where we've come from in order to know where we're going to.
Yeah.
And of course, there's that traditional saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and it really is true. It rings true today, even more so than ever before. And obviously, a lot of the success Cayman has had has been based on the fact that we used to live like that, and we've lost a lot of that, and it's very unfortunate. I personally would very much like to see that come back. I mean, there's always disadvantages to being a small community, but the advantages are much greater.
Yeah, we're too obsessed now with monetary gain and stuff. And I'll give a good example. You know, we got Mayor Wallace Street that runs on the road. That's where we used to have all the regattas and stuff, like a catboat race and all that stuff. Mr. Willifan Shop was there. Mr. Lewin was there. And they, you know, everybody was like, it was a community thing when they had it. Now, when I go down there, I see where this guy, I don't know who he is, that got this 2-story or 3-story house that's built there on the corner by Alfresco. And you see, this is government giving them permission to do that. and they go there, and all because government's going to get 2 cents, or they got the people who are building it is some friend to somebody, some politician. These are the things we got to be careful with. We can't continue to let people come and direct to us what they want to do. We have to say, we welcome you, but you can't do that, you see. And we've lost that ability to control the island. That's what's happening to us now.
Well, I think we've got someone on the telephone, and remember, you can call us here and tell us a little bit about what you think about Christmas celebrations. And you want to give those numbers again?
Yes, certainly. It's 949-8037 or toll free 1-800-534-8255. I believe we have a call on the line. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, Mr. Loxley and your guest.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon.
I heard Mr. Rupert talking about some natural cures a while ago.
Homeopathic, yes, sir.
The wild rosemary.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For asthma.
Mm-hmm.
You dry that, and you can roll it as a cigarette, or you put it on a container, or you can boil it and drink it, and it kills asthma.
Mm-hmm.
But right here in the Cayman Islands, we got so many things that kill lupus, all these kind of things. Right here in the island, nobody's not really utilized, and all you can hear is this one dropped down dead, that one dropped down, all these kind of problems. I've been involved with natural herbs now for 34 years, and things that being cured in the Cayman Islands is unbelievable. The different ailments, cancers, AIDS, herpes, and all these kind of things are being cured here in Cayman, and nobody's doing anything about it. Anyway, I don't want to take up no more of your time. You all have a good day.
Well, thank you for the call, and I think that's a vivid reminder here of how far we've probably got away from some of what really made us what we are.
Yes.
And
we become too dependent on the pharmaceutical things that we import. And you mentioned something like a natural cure, like what he talked about. Oh no! My doctor said, well, this is what's ruining it. It's like
Well, at this point, I think we want to remind you that CI Retro Talk Today special presentation of Christmas Remembered here in the Cayman Islands, is being brought to you by the Ministry of Culture. The Ministry of Culture, working hard to keep our culture, our heritage, and our history alive, and so that we don't let it get buried under some of the impinging factors that come across our borders. Also by Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration. Visit Parsons for that big ticket item, that special washing machine or that refrigerator. They've got it right there at Parsons on West Church Street in West Bay. And by Hell Service Station on Hell Road in West Bay. Family owned and operated for over 4 decades. And we're coming up now just about on to the end of our program. So we'll go around the table here and just sort of give some closing remarks, if we will. And Arlen, we can start with you.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. It's been very enjoyable.
But before that, we didn't. I think you need to tell us a bit about who starred in that Sandman's piano.
The play 40 years ago.
We got so busy doing other things that we sort of forgot about.
Swing back to that for a minute. Yes. Yeah, we had Oliver Hill and Mitch Ebanks.
John Mitch?
No, not John Mitch.
Mitch.
Stanton's, the gentleman who used to work at UCCI years ago.
Okay.
Mrs. Mitzi Panton was the old gentleman's, starred by Oliver Hill, the wife, and then a young lady called Pauline Campbell. But Leroy Holness, we all know him from Rundown.
Yes.
He was one of the Duppies. And he was a schoolboy at the time, and so I kind of picked out some of the the children who acted in it were a lot of students from Cayman Islands High School. William Connolly, I don't know where William is these days. Carlisle Ebanks of Suki and Ezekiel. He was in it as a teacher and the father. Mr. McKeeva Bush even was a young McKeeva Bush was in it. They played the role of a minister. Lloyd Sampson, B.G. Sarant of blessed memory, and Frank Banks of blessed memory.
Yes.
Yeah. Regina Anderson and Nina Orette was one of the ones who sang so beautifully. We had, mostly the young girls and boys that I was teaching that were interested.
Wayne DaCosta, didn't he play a little role in there somewhere?
I don't think Wayne was in it. No. I don't remember Wayne. No.
What I would really like to do is to get that play in the hands of Brian Watler Jr., who does a fantastic play on Christmas plays with his church at Northside Wesleyan Holiness.
Wonderful.
And see what he can do with it, because I think it would be a good way of bringing it back.
Well, honestly, when we did it, it was always with the intention of repeating it. Okay. And I even have notes about the different themes I wanted in the second version. Okay. But I had just come back. I was just teaching for the first time, and I did this in addition to all that. And then I was gone for about 8-9 years, and it kind of just sat, and nobody else really picked it up. I think that the Harquail did do something similar to it, probably more like in the early 90s. They did a little Christmas thing, but it wasn't called Sandman's Pramble. So there's scope for it to be revived. We can revive it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's important that it be revived and it is run as a. What was that trade? The big trade that we used to fish in with Rupert, 82 trade. Yeah. Through our community.
Yeah.
Strong trade.
It showed a lot about our past, because it showed courtship procedures, marriages. It showed the men being called to serve in the Second World War. It showed mail call in the post office, the women waiting to get their allotments from their husbands at sea. And then, it ended with the Christmas theme. And, you had the beautiful set with the Cayman style house with the gravel walkway and the conch shells, and then it was all about it was very kind of evocative and very sort of, I don't know, people loved it. It went for 6 weekends, Fridays and Saturdays, sold out, and it actually made money for the theater.
So I think that all the more reason we should bring it back.
Absolutely. And maybe you could get what's his name, the movie guy that
Frank.
Yeah, Frank Flowers Jr. Make a little.
Well, who knows? Who knows? Life has come full circle, so I have a bit more time on my hands.
Jamo, your thoughts?
Well, I want to thank you all for allowing me to be here. And each time I listen to these retros, I always learn something new. I try to make it penetrate my core so I can share. It makes me seem a lot older than I really am, and I can share a lot of things way beyond my time with young people. And it prepares me to be a encyclopedia for young people. And I want to thank you, Mr. Loxley, for extending this invitation to me. I'm pretty sure a lot of people that were watching or listening today has also learned quite a bit. And if you really try to bring back some of the things that have made us really special and unique as a people, we can continue to climb to new heights, because we were a set of people that were sought out. Everybody sought out for Cayman when it came to being on a ship. People were looking for real hard-working industrial problem solvers. They looked to Caymanians, and I think we need to start solving our own problems and being creative, and finding ways of, even if just through reenaction, find new ways of being innovative. And I think these kinds of settings set the tone for that, and I want to thank you for making my Christmas very special.
And maintaining that Caymanian spirit.
Yeah.
Caymanians, as those people say, kind of special people, you know. And, you know, you look back through our history and you'll find that out at every aspect, every turn.
Yeah, and you can hear the passion in everybody's voices. From the voices we heard in the recordings, it was a joyous time. It was a time that people looked forward to. But more importantly, it was about relationships. And that's all it is about to life. Life is about relationships, and this is why God has made us communicators, that we can communicate and share special moments with each other.
Chloe?
Well, firstly, thank you all for having me on. It was a pleasure. And I can certainly say that I haven't been around long enough to share all these old Caymanian memories with you all, but I have learned a lot from the recordings and even everyone in studio today. It has opened my eyes to see how the world has changed right in front of my eyes, even from when I was younger growing up to going to all my Christmas plays. In primary school, we used to have Christmas plays, and now in high school, we don't. And it's really different to see how ever-changing our island is becoming. And I have learned so much more, as I said, and to see how you guys used to walk everywhere and now how we have cars to the point where there's traffic backing up for hours. And even the spiritual aspects of how everything was church-related or family-oriented, it made it seem like we're going on a path and we need to change the direction and go back and reflect on what Cayman used to be like so we can have a piece of it here with us now.
Amen.
Excellent.
Very well said.
Yep.
And, you know, as we said, if we don't know where we've been, we cannot really efficiently and properly plan where we want to go.
Yeah.
So it's important that we keep these cultural things, the heritage and the history alive. And, you know, the next CI Retro talk today, special presentation, is going to deal with Cayman Islands politics and governance. And you know that this Heroes Day, we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of
the Constitution,
first Constitution, and all those other things. And we will go back and pick up some of the commentary, some of the narrative from, you know, way back there, probably going back 100 years or so, of how they governed and how it could, you know, give us some pointers as to how best we can govern and be political and still maintain the kind of spirits that we talked about around this table today.
Do you have any recordings of Clifton Hunter?
You know, I don't know that we've got any, because Mr. Clifton, I think he passed away quite young. Right. But I'm sure that in some of those LA recordings that we talked about earlier in the program, that his voice is somewhere in there, and that's why it's urgent that we really try to digitalize these
the older
tapes, because once they're gone, you know, you cannot. There's no way of recreating them.
This is one way of connecting us with our new heroes. We're now in an era where we're now starting to celebrate our people. We're now establishing national heroes. We're now establishing pioneers and those that we look up to. And it would be great for young people especially to not only know of them, but to hear what they've said and to
passion that you mentioned that they, you know, were going about doing what they were doing.
Right.
I want to give you a little thing before I go. It's a poem that I wrote some time ago about two old seamen. Okay. And it reminds me when my grandfather was, you know, he was around. They would get on the porch and they'd sit down and they'd got their pipe and stuff and they'd smoking and talking. And then they get quiet and then they shake their hand. Yep. And, you know, you can imagine. And this is about these two old seamen sitting on a porch and it's called The Old Seaman. It says, 2 old seamen sitting on a porch. One jumped up and killed a roach. What's wrong with you, the other said. How would you feel if you were dead? Good question, was his friend's reply. To find that out, I'd have to die. But I'm not ready for that yet, 'cause lots of girls I haven't met. His friend replied, now there's a place away up there in outer space. It's called Roach Heaven, just so you'll know, and that's where all dead roaches go. They go up there and sit on porches and fraternize with other roaches. They talk about these 2 old men who for no reason killed their friend. And they say that when they come back, there'll be this massive roach attack on one old man who killed a roach while sitting on his neighbor's porch.
You definitely can write your poetry.
that reminds me, let's try to put this quickly, of the 2 old boys sitting in a porch setting, but they were sitting on the east side of the house. And this old city slicker comes out in the country, and he's trying to sell him something, and he wasn't making much headway. And he finally said to him, he said, well, tell me something. What do you guys do around here anyway? He said, well, and I got to really think to get this right. During the winter, we sit on the east side of the porch and follow the sun around to the west side. During the summer, we sit on the west side of the porch and follow the shade around to the east side.
Makes sense.
Logic there. Okay, and we're getting this on. We got to wrap. So, we thank you all for joining us.
Thank you,
Patrick. You want to just?
I just will quickly say that it's been a pleasure to be here with you all. Mr. Loxley, Radio Cayman, thank you for allowing me to participate in this program. It's very educational always, and it reminds us of why it's so important to be proud of who we are and where we've come from. It makes me feel proud to be reminded of that. And at this special time of the year, I hope that we can all have a few moments to be thankful for that fact.
Yes, and maintain that friendliness, that spirituality, and that cohesiveness amongst neighbors and friends. Yes, and all left for us to say is
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for
Merry
joining
Christmas.
us. And we conclude that this CI Retro Talk Today special presentation on Cayman Islands Christmas Remembered was brought to you by Health Service Station, the Ministry of Culture, and Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration. And my thanks to you folks for taking time out to come in here and joining us, and we hope that the listening audience enjoyed what they heard. And a reminder here that this program will be repeated a week, well, actually next Thursday will be the day after Christmas.
Boxing Day, yeah.
In the evening at 7 o'clock, and then it will be repeated the following Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So there'll be lots of opportunity for folks who were not able to tune in today to hear the program.
Yes, sir.
Thanks again to our sponsors for really jumping in and helping us with this program.
All right.
Merry Christmas.
Is where tradition never dies. This is your radio, Cayman.
After all that talk, sit back, relax. Easy listening on the way. You're listening to Susan on the PM show, Radio Cayman.
You know, Christmas means the same thing.